In the bustling terminal of John F. Kennedy International Airport, a calm teenage girl named Ebony Day stood at the threshold of an unforgettable journey, a first-class ticket in hand, and an unshakable gleam of excitement in her eyes. Little did she know, mere moments after boarding her flight to Los Angeles, she'd be thrust into a storm of prejudice and drama that would rock not just her, but every single passenger on that plane. Entitled demands, an unruly VIP Karen, and a flight crew willing to cross the line would ignite a battle of justice versus ignorance. This is the story no one expected, and no one will forget. Ebony Day was no ordinary 15-year-old. She was bright, composed, and wise beyond her years. Raised in Brooklyn, New York, Ebony's parents had instilled in her the belief that through hard work, determination, and a bit of faith, anything was possible. Her mother, Sandra Day, was a devoted nurse at Mount Sinai Hospital, and her father, Marcus Day, was a civil rights attorney who had earned respect in the legal community. Ebony had received a remarkable surprise for her upcoming birthday, a ticket to Los Angeles, first class on Delta Airlines. For most teenagers, even an economy seat might have been enough for excitement, but Marcus had used his frequent flyer miles, accumulated through countless business trips, to upgrade his daughter. It was more than a luxury. It was a statement. Ebony had always admired how her parents never let her feel lesser than anyone else, and this gift represented their deep pride in her success as a student and budding pianist. Ebony's father believed in giving her experiences that would widen her worldview. Flying first class wasn't merely about comfort. It was to reinforce the idea that Ebony belonged anywhere she set foot. He wanted her to know her worth was not up for debate. If she worked hard, she could claim any seat in life, no matter who tried to object. When Ebony arrived at JFK, her nerves buzzed with a blend of excitement and anxious anticipation. Check-in went smoothly. The agent, an older gentleman in a neat uniform, smiled upon seeing Ebony's ticket. Ebony noticed a flicker of surprise in his eyes. Maybe he didn't see many unaccompanied minors in first class. But he said nothing to diminish her sense of pride. Instead, he directed Ebony to the premium security line, thanking her for flying Delta. Waiting in that shorter security line, Ebony glanced at her surroundings. She felt that unique sense of belonging and subtle curiosity from fellow travelers. A well-dressed businessman nodded politely. A flight attendant, hair neatly pulled back, offered a warm smile. It was a small thrill for Ebony, her first solo flight in first class. The world felt open and promising. She passed through security without a hitch and found her way to the Delta Sky Club lounge. Her father had insisted, "Go early, enjoy the lounge, and savor every moment." Ebony, a little shy yet determined, showed the lounge pass. The receptionist, a tall woman with a sharp but kind demeanor, welcomed Ebony in. She took a seat in a corner, texting her mom that she'd arrived safely. Sandra's reply was immediate. "Enjoy, baby. We're so proud of you." Ebony sipped on a free soda and watched planes through the floor-to-ceiling window. She was enthralled by the magnitude of the aircraft taxiing in and out. Soon her flight number, DL 247 to Los Angeles, flashed on the monitor, indicating boarding was near. Ebony gathered her backpack, stuffed with a sketchbook, a novel, and her favorite pair of headphones, and walked to the gate. Little did she know that in just a short while, she'd be at the center of a conflict so intense it would capture the attention of passengers, flight staff, and eventually, the entire internet. The seeds of a shocking ordeal were about to be planted, fueled by a woman whose sense of entitlement knew no bounds, and by a flight crew that would cross every moral line to appease that woman's whims. Ebony stepped onto the aircraft and felt a gentle blast of cool air greet her. Flight attendants were stationed at the entrance, guiding passengers to the correct aisles. A petite attendant with a crisp bob haircut checked Ebony's ticket. 1A, the attendant confirmed, looking at Ebony with a slight arch of the eyebrow. "You're in the very front of first class, sweetie. Do you need help finding your seat?" Ebony offered a polite smile. "No, thank you. I'm good." She had studied the aircraft layout online and knew precisely where to go, the left side of the plane just past the cockpit door. Ebony walked down the short aisle into the first-class cabin. Plush leather seats, extra leg room, and an air of calm comfort surrounded her. She set her backpack in the overhead bin, took her seat, and buckled in. Beside her, in seat 1B, was an older gentleman wearing a friendly smile. "Good afternoon," he said. Ebony nodded and introduced herself. The man, Mr. Lee, was headed to Los Angeles for a medical conference. He asked Ebony what brought her to LA, and she explained it was part vacation, part visit to her aunt, and a chance to see the city's performing arts centers. Mr. Lee seemed genuinely impressed by Ebony's poise and eloquence. A second flight attendant with a name tag that read Tracy L. breezed through the aisle, offering pre-flight drinks. Ebony politely declined, still feeling too excited to sip on anything yet. Tracy lingered a moment, scanning Ebony, then moved on to the next row. Ebony felt slightly uneasy, but tried to dismiss it as nerves. 10 minutes later, just before the cabin doors closed, Ebony heard a commotion near the aircraft's entrance. A voice, shrill, demanding, and quite loud, echoed from the corridor. Ebony craned her neck to see a woman in an expensive-looking blazer, her blonde hair teased into a perfect bob, berating a gate agent. "I'm supposed to get a seat in first class," the woman barked. "Do you know who I am? I spend more money on this airline in a month than most people do in a year. This is unacceptable." Other passengers in first class exchanged curious glances. The more brazen among them stared openly as the flight crew tried to calm the ranting woman. Her name, gleaned from the embroidered tote bag over her shoulder, was Karen in bold letters. Ebony felt a knot tighten in her stomach. There was something about the woman's tone that set her on edge, something that suggested that no one else's needs mattered in the face of her demands. When Karen finally made her way down the aisle, Ebony tried not to stare. But Karen's arrival was anything but subtle. She walked with the gate agent in tow, complaining audibly, "I cannot believe I have to argue about my seat. I'm a Delta Diamond medallion. Someone better fix this." Tracy, the flight attendant, approached, lowering her voice as she attempted to soothe Karen. Ebony could only catch fragments of the conversation. "Fully booked, an unaccompanied minor, family seat arrangement." The words unaccompanied minor made Ebony's shoulders tense. She wondered if they were talking about her. Karen's eyes scanned the first-class cabin like a hawk, searching for a target to displace. When she spotted Ebony in 1A, her gaze zeroed in, and her expression turned sour. Ebony held her breath. She hoped that this was all some misunderstanding that wouldn't affect her. But deep down, a sense of dread unfurled. The confrontation was imminent, and Ebony had no idea how far it would go. Pre-flight announcements began. The pilot introduced himself, welcoming everyone aboard, but Ebony couldn't help noticing the flight attendants whispering among themselves, occasionally glancing at Ebony's seat. Meanwhile, Karen stood in the galley, arms folded, tapping her foot, as though any delay was a personal affront. The lead flight attendant, a stern man named Donovan, stepped into the cabin with an air of authority. His sharp uniform and crisp posture communicated he was used to running a tight ship. Donovan approached Ebony's seat. "Excuse me," he said softly. "You're Miss Ebony Day, correct?" Ebony nodded. A swirl of anxiety flickered within her. "That's me," she replied. Donovan knelt slightly so as not to loom over her. "We seem to have a bit of an issue with seat assignments," he began, casting a quick glance to where Karen stood glaring. "Would you mind if I check your boarding pass again?" Ebony pulled out the pass from her backpack and handed it over. Donovan examined it. "Boarding pass says seat 1A indeed." He handed it back with an apologetic smile. "We might have to move some passengers around to accommodate a diamond medallion traveler." Ebony swallowed. This was the exact scenario her father had warned her might happen someday. Someone questioning her right to be in a space she rightfully occupied. She had never experienced it so overtly, though. "Is there a reason you need my seat, sir?" Ebony asked, trying to remain composed. Donovan lowered his voice. "We have a high-level VIP who insists she was guaranteed an upgrade. We're just trying to see if we can find a solution that works for everyone. Ebony felt indignation simmer. Sir, I paid for this ticket, or rather my father did. It's mine. Why do I have to move? Donovan's expression tightened. I understand your frustration, but we ask for your understanding. You're an unaccompanied minor and… Her heart sank. That phrase again. She didn't want to cause trouble, but she also knew capitulating would mean letting someone bully her out of her rightful spot. Mr. Lee, seated next to Ebony, overheard. Excuse me, he interjected. The young lady is seated correctly. Why move her for someone else's convenience? Donovan's gaze flicked to Mr. Lee, then back to Ebony. Sir, we're not forcing her to move. We're just asking if she would volunteer for a seat in the main cabin. We can offer meal vouchers and perhaps a travel credit. Ebony's voice wavered with a mixture of hurt and determination. If you need a volunteer, why not ask someone else? Why are you singling me out? In the corner of her vision, Ebony could see Karen shaking her head in disgust, as if Ebony's presence in first class was an insult to the natural order. Karen mouthed something to the gate agent, her facial expressions betraying her impatience. Donovan stood up. Let me speak with the passenger in question again. Then he hurried away to consult with Karen. Mr. Lee whispered, Don't let them bully you. You have every right to stay. Ebony nodded, grateful for the support. The overhead bins clicked shut. The pilot announced, We're moments from pushback. Flight attendants, please prepare for departure. Yet the flight wasn't preparing in the slightest. Karen was still in the aisle, complaining loudly, This is outrageous. I want to speak to a supervisor. Tracy tried to guide her to the galley to free the aisle, but Karen refused. Everyone move. I have a right to my seat, and I'm not taking no for an answer. Ebony stared out the window, trying to remain composed. Part of her wanted to cry. This was supposed to be a joyous trip. Instead, she felt singled out and humiliated. She could only guess how many people around her were seeing this unfold. She glanced around and saw phones peeking between seat rows, passengers quietly recording. Her story was possibly already being documented on someone's Instagram or TikTok. Just as Ebony tried to steady her breathing, Donovan returned. Karen trailed behind him, shoulders squared, chin lifted. She was determined to get what she wanted. Donovan leaned down to Ebony again, his voice curt now. Miss Day, I need you to come with me. The airline is prepared to reassign you to an economy seat. Ebony's blood ran cold. This was no longer a polite request. It was an order. Mr. Lee spoke up again, raising his voice. This is unacceptable. I will testify that this young lady has done nothing wrong and has a valid ticket for this seat. Karen huffed. Sir, mind your business. Clearly there's been a mistake. That seat is for Diamond Medallion members like me, people who belong there. She enunciated the word belong with an unmistakable sneer in Ebony's direction. Ebony's heart pounded. She remembered her father's advice. Record everything if your rights are being violated. Her hands shook as she fumbled to open the camera app on her phone, trying to document the confrontation. But Donovan's voice cut through. Phones must be on airplane mode, please. Tracy hovered behind Donovan, arms crossed, her expression stony. Ebony could see the unspoken demand, comply or else. She weighed her options. She was alone, far from the gate now, and the flight attendants had authority in the cabin. If she resisted, would they remove her from the flight entirely? She desperately wanted to call her father, but they were pressuring her to shut down her phone. Biting back tears, Ebony slowly rose from her seat. Mr. Lee's protest fell on deaf ears. Donovan nodded curtly. Thank you, Miss Day. Right this way. Karen smirked triumphantly, flouncing into seat 1A as though she were royalty, and Ebony was a trespasser who'd been duly evicted. Tracy, meanwhile, avoided Ebony's eyes like she knew deep down this wasn't right. Ebony followed Donovan through the curtain into the main cabin, each step feeling heavier than the last. Passengers in economy watched curiously. She felt the weight of their stares. A swirl of shame and anger twisted in her stomach. She heard Karen's voice behind her. Finally, we can take off. But Ebony wasn't going to let this pass quietly. A seed of resolve formed inside her. She needed to call her father. Now. Donovan showed Ebony to a middle seat in the second-to-last row. It was cramped, a far cry from the spacious luxury of 1A. With reluctant politeness, he said, "Thank you for cooperating, Miss Day. Let's just get you settled so we can depart." Ebony buckled her seatbelt mechanically, her mind swirling. She had never been so blatantly disrespected. Her father's unwavering stance on dignity echoed in her thoughts. In her head, she replayed his voice. "If someone tries to violate your rights, you stand firm, Ebony. And if you can't stand firm, you call me." The flight attendant scurried up and down the aisle, finalizing pre-takeoff checks. Ebony noticed the overhead lights flicker as the plane's engines whirred. She inhaled a shaky breath and pulled out her phone, her hands trembling. She typed out a quick message to her father. "Dad, they forced me out of my first-class seat for a white lady who said she's VIP. They wouldn't listen to me. I'm in economy now. Please help. Ebony." The moment she hit send, an announcement blared. "All portable electronic devices must now be in airplane mode or turned off." Ebony quickly set her phone to airplane mode, unsure if the text had even gone through. As the plane began to taxi to the runway, Ebony felt trapped. She stared out the tiny oval window, tears welling. She wondered how her father would react if he got her message too late or not at all. She dreaded the powerless feeling that came with compliance. Takeoff was swift. The plane angled skyward and Ebony's stomach flipped with the G-forces. She swallowed hard, focusing on her breathing. When they reached cruising altitude and the seatbelt sign clicked off, Ebony unclipped her phone and checked it. No new messages. She whispered to the passenger next to her, a kind-looking older woman. "May I get out?" The woman nodded, letting Ebony pass into the aisle. Ebony walked to the rear galley. There, a young flight attendant, possibly in her mid-20s, was preparing the drink cart. Ebony mustered courage and spoke in a steady voice. "May I please speak with Donovan or the captain? I need to call my father." The young attendant eyed Ebony sympathetically. "I'm sorry, sweetie, but calls aren't allowed in flight. Is something wrong?" Ebony took a breath. "Yes, I was forced out of my paid seat in first class because of a VIP passenger. I'm an unaccompanied minor, and my father is a lawyer. I need to contact him." The attendant's eyes widened. She lowered her voice. I heard some rumors up front. Let me go get Donovan." A short while later, Donovan arrived, exasperation etched across his face. "Miss Day, you can't make calls in the air. If you have a complaint, you can file it after landing." Ebony forced herself to stay calm. "But you do realize this is blatant discrimination, right? I was singled out because of her status, and maybe because of my skin color. You do see that?" Donovan stiffened. "This has nothing to do with race. We had a seat assignment issue, that's all. Now please return to your seat." Ebony's voice grew firm, surprising even herself. "My father is a civil rights attorney. If you don't allow me to at least send a message to him using the plane's Wi-Fi, then you're preventing me from exercising my rights as a minor to communicate with my guardian. This entire ordeal is being documented, by the way." Donovan pressed his lips together. "You can use the in-flight Wi-Fi for messaging if you've purchased the service. That's not prohibited. But no phone calls." Ebony nodded, swallowing the frustration. She returned to her seat, ignoring the curious stares. Once settled, she connected to the plane's Wi-Fi. She purchased a messaging pass and immediately opened a chat app to contact her father. The conversation was rapid. "Dad, I'm in economy. They forced me out." "Forced you out? What do you mean?" "Some woman, Karen, claimed she's a VIP. The flight attendants made me move. I showed them my ticket. They didn't care. That's outrageous. Did you get any video or documentation?" "Some. They stopped me when I tried recording, but other passengers were filming. I'm calling Delta customer service immediately. Also, I have the number of someone at the NAACP who might help. Keep me posted. Don't let them bully you. If they threaten anything, text me right away." Ebony's heart steadied. She felt a surge of relief. She wasn't alone. Her father was on the case. As Ebony typed a reply, a voice emerged on the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are beginning our in-flight service. We have a flight time of approximately 5 hours to Los Angeles. We hope you enjoy the flight." She noticed the seatbelt sign was off, and flight attendants began distributing snacks in the economy cabin. In first class, Ebony knew they would be enjoying hot towels and gourmet meals. She didn't care as much about the meal as she did the principal. A distinct hush fell over the cabin as Donovan appeared once again, heading straight for Ebony's row with a forced smile. "Miss Day, might I speak with you privately?" Ebony glared but obliged. She unbuckled and followed him to the galley once more. Donovan rubbed his temples. "Your father has already contacted Delta Corporate and threatened legal action. We just got word from the ground." Ebony's eyebrows rose. She shouldn't have been surprised, but part of her was relieved. "Yes, he has. Is that an issue?" Donovan inhaled, his posture stiff. "The captain and I have discussed your situation. We'd like to offer you a seat in Comfort Plus to make up for the inconvenience. It's not first class, but it's better than economy. Will that be acceptable?" Ebony felt her temper flare. "No, I was removed from my rightful seat. Why would I accept anything less than what I paid for, what my father paid for?" Donovan crossed his arms. "Look, Miss Day, we're at 35,000 feet. We can't exactly remove our Diamond Medallion passenger now. We're trying to work with you. This is a compromise." "Where was this compromise when you forced me out?" Ebony countered. Donovan's jaw tightened. "Are you refusing the Comfort Plus seat?" "Yes, I am," Ebony said firmly. "I want to return to first class, or at least let's land and I can switch flights to one where first class is still available. This entire experience is humiliating." The flight attendant from earlier, the younger one, lingered nearby, her eyes revealing pity. Donovan sighed. "We cannot make the Diamond Medallion passenger move now that she's settled. We can't change flights mid-air, obviously." He seemed genuinely frustrated. "We want to avoid further conflict." Ebony nodded slowly, tears of anger pricking her eyes. She hated feeling vulnerable. "Well, conflict was inevitable the moment you prioritized her over me. Let my father handle it then." She turned and walked away, back to her cramped seat. Before she sat down, she sent another update to Marcus. "They're offering me Comfort Plus. I refused. Told them I want my rightful seat or I'll file a complaint with you." "Good. I've told them you deserve that seat back or a flight that honors your ticket. Do not let them intimidate you." Steadfast in her resolve, Ebony strapped in and tried to focus on the 5-hour journey ahead. The seat reclined barely an inch, and she could hear the persistent hum of the engines. She scrolled through her phone, noticing that her story was already beginning to blow up on social media. Some passengers had posted about the incident, and Ebony's name was emerging on Twitter. A short video snippet showed Karen scolding Ebony in first class. Comments poured in. #stand with Ebony, #flying while black. Ebony's eyes widened. She was at the center of a viral storm. About an hour into the flight, Ebony sensed the atmosphere shifting. People in the economy cabin whispered in hushed tones, exchanging glances in her direction. One by one, a few approached her row on the pretense of stretching their legs or using the bathroom. A woman in an aisle seat tapped Ebony's shoulder gently. "Miss, are you the one who got kicked out of first class for that rude lady?" Ebony nodded, her cheeks heating with a mix of embarrassment and validation. The woman pressed her lips together. "I'm so sorry you had to go through that. It was appalling. I got a little bit of it on video." Ebony's heart fluttered. "Thank you for caring. May I get a copy of that video, or can you post it online?" The woman nodded. "I already posted it to my Instagram story. Let me give you my handle." She scrawled it on a napkin. "I've got your back, sweetie." Ebony thanked her, feeling a surge of solidarity. Moments like these reminded her that not everyone subscribed to the cruelty she had witnessed. 2 rows down, a middle-aged man with a corporate-looking laptop caught Ebony's eye and nodded at her sympathetically. It seemed half the cabin was on her side. The entire fiasco was swirling among the passengers, a captivating in-flight drama they couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, Ebony wondered how Karen was faring in first class. She suspected that woman was enjoying her meal, unrepentant and unbothered by the wave of outrage she had sparked. The flight attendants, Ebony noticed, seemed on edge. Tracy hurried through the economy cabin with forced politeness, avoiding eye contact with Ebony. Donovan strode back once, glancing down the aisle, before disappearing again behind the thick curtain that separated first class from the rest. Ebony's phone vibrated with an incoming message. Remarkable that in-flight Wi-Fi worked so well. It was from her father. "I've just spoken with my contact at Delta. They're investigating. Prepare for an update soon. Keep your phone near." Ebony exhaled a sigh of relief. Her father was a force to be reckoned with in legal circles. She leaned back, her seat squeaking in protest, and closed her eyes. The hum of the plane filled her ears, and she tried to imagine she was somewhere else, somewhere more peaceful. But the reality was inescapable. She was stuck here for hours with no resolution in sight. Time crawled. She tried reading, then sketched in her notebook, but her mind kept drifting back to the injustice. Flashes of Karen's smug face, Donovan's dismissive eyes, the swirl of humiliating looks from onlookers as she'd been escorted out of first class. About halfway into the flight, Ebony heard a kerfuffle from the front of the cabin. Raised voices, though she couldn't make out the words. Passengers in economy seats leaned into the aisle, trying to see what was happening. Then Ebony saw Donovan hurrying toward the cockpit, looking alarmed. Tracy rushed through, her expression tight. Before Ebony could guess what was going on, an announcement from the captain crackled over the PA system. "Ladies and gentlemen, apologies for any disturbance. Due to an onboard situation, we may need to divert for passenger safety. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened." A ripple of anxiety coursed through the cabin. Divert? Ebony's heart hammered. She glanced around, scanning for any sign of an emergency. Then someone near the front shrieked, "She's having a panic attack." Ebony thought it might be Karen, but she couldn't be sure. The plane jolted as it changed course, beginning what felt like a premature descent. People murmured questions. "Are we landing? Is there a medical emergency?" Flight attendants announced that everything was under control, but Ebony sensed panic swirling in the air. 15 minutes later, Ebony felt the plane leveling off. The pilot's voice returned. "We have consulted with our ground team and will continue on course to Los Angeles. We had a brief medical concern, but our passenger is stable now." A collective sigh of relief rolled through the cabin. Ebony slumped in her seat, equally relieved but also more anxious. What had happened in first class? Curiosity gnawed at her. Was it Karen? Had she orchestrated some meltdown for attention, or was something genuinely wrong? As the flight pressed on, Ebony sent another message to her father. "We almost diverted. Some medical situation in first class. Everyone's rattled. Hang in there. I'm hearing from corporate that they're on high alert. They might have an airline rep waiting in LAX for you." Ebony typed back a quick "okay" and closed her eyes again. She tried to picture the moment she would step off the plane, hopefully reuniting with her aunt who'd be waiting. She wondered if the media would get wind of this fiasco, if her father's influence had turned the tide. No matter how this ended, Ebony vowed she wouldn't stay silent. She deserved an apology. She deserved more than hush money or travel vouchers. She deserved to have people held accountable for the blatant racism that had been disguised under the veneer of seat assignment issues. 2 hours left in the flight. Ebony watched the overhead monitor that tracked their progress across the country. A sense of fatigue weighed on her. She hadn't eaten, and her stomach growled softly. Then she felt a tap on her shoulder. A different flight attendant, one she hadn't seen before, possibly from the rotating shift. "Miss Day?" the attendant asked in a gentle tone. "We've prepared a meal tray for you, the same first-class meal they're having up front." The tray had a covered plate, a roll, and a small salad. Ebony accepted it hesitantly, noticing the apologetic glint in the attendant's eyes. "Thank you," she mumbled. As she removed the foil, the aroma of roasted chicken wafted out. Usually, Ebony wasn't too picky about airplane food, but now, her appetite was overshadowed by the memory of how she'd been treated. Still, she forced herself to eat for some semblance of normalcy. Midway through her meal, the cabin lights flickered, and the seatbelt sign dinged on. Tracy's voice came over the PA. "Ladies and gentlemen, please return to your seats and buckle up. We're experiencing some moderate turbulence." Moments later, the plane shook, jostling Ebony's tray. She clutched the edges, bracing herself. The turbulence lasted several minutes, sending nervous ripples through the cabin, but eventually it eased. Ebony exhaled in relief, finishing her salad. Suddenly, a hush fell over the cabin. She looked down the aisle to see Karen herself, tottering unsteadily, making her way from first class into the economy cabin. Her hair was disheveled, and her face betrayed a mix of anger and panic. Tracy followed close behind, clearly trying to coax Karen back to her seat. Karen's eyes landed on Ebony. Without warning, she pointed a manicured finger. "It's all your fault," she screeched, ignoring Tracy's pleas. "You caused all this drama. Now I'm anxious and can't breathe. You're the reason they almost diverted the plane." Passengers gasped. Ebony stood up, stepping into the aisle, fueled by indignation. "Excuse me, I'm the reason? You took my seat." Karen's face was flushed. She raked a hand through her hair. "They gave me that seat because I earned it with my status. The airline knew better than to keep some kid in first class when a diamond medallion is on board. But because of you stirring up trouble, I've been having panic attacks. I want an apology." An audible wave of disbelief spread through the cabin. People murmured, "Is she serious?" Others gawked. Ebony felt her chest tighten. "No, you don't get an apology from me," she said, her voice quivering with contained fury. "You should be apologizing to me." Karen's lips trembled, and a vindictive sneer crossed her face. "Apologize to you? For what?" Ebony took a deep breath. "For discriminating against me, for humiliating me in front of everyone, for making me feel like I don't belong where I paid to be." Karen's laugh was cold. "How dare you accuse me of discrimination? I have black friends. This has nothing to do with race. It's about what you deserve based on status." Ebony clenched her fists. "You told me I didn't belong. You refused to even acknowledge I had a valid first-class ticket. Don't hide your prejudice behind status." Voices rose around them. Some passengers booed Karen. Others told her to go back to her seat. A man in a window seat exclaimed, "We've all got you on camera, lady. Sit down and let this girl be." Karen snapped around to face him, momentarily stunned by the wave of dissent. Tracy rushed forward, trying to guide Karen away. "Ma'am, please, let's return to your seat in first class." Karen's eyes were wild with frustration, and perhaps a hint of embarrassment now that she was outnumbered. She glared at Ebony one last time. "You'll regret making such a scene," she hissed, then turned on her heel and stomped back toward first class, ignoring Tracy's attempts at civility. The hush lingered, heavy with shock and tension. Finally, Ebony's seatmate gently patted the vacant seat, beckoning her to sit. Ebony realized she'd been trembling. She flopped down, tears threatening to break free again. But she blinked them back, refusing to appear vulnerable. The older woman in the aisle seat frowned sympathetically. "Don't let that hateful person scare you. She's in the wrong. We all know it." Ebony mustered a grateful nod. "I'm just so tired of this. It's not fair." The woman squeezed Ebony's hand. "Life isn't fair sometimes, but you're not alone. We see you." Ebony clung to those words. They felt like a lifeline in a stormy sea. "We see you." With less than an hour left to land in Los Angeles, Ebony could feel exhaustion sinking in. She tried to calm her breathing, tried to stop her mind from reeling. She just wanted this flight to end. Her phone vibrated once again. This time it was a message from a blocked number. She hesitated, then opened it, suspecting it might be her father using some alternate line. "Hello, Ebony. This is Karen Brooks with Delta Corporate. Your father contacted us. I'd like to speak with you. Are you available for a phone call through Wi-Fi?" Ebony's heart thumped. This was a different Karen. Karen Brooks, a corporate representative. She quickly responded, "Yes, I'm available. Let me know how to call." Moments later, Ebony received instructions on how to connect to a secure Wi-Fi call system used by the airline's representatives. She discreetly slipped into the rear galley again, ignoring the suspicious glances from Tracy. Ebony dialed in, waiting for the line to connect. A crisp, professional voice answered. "Hello, Ebony. This is Karen Brooks with Delta Corporate. First, I want to sincerely apologize on behalf of Delta Airlines for the distress and inconvenience you've endured." Ebony swallowed. "Thank you for reaching out," she said, her voice still quivering. "I just want to understand why I was removed from my paid seat for someone else who claimed to be a VIP." Karen Brooks exhaled. "We're looking into that. Based on your father's account and some passenger statements, it appears there was a grave mishandling of your seat assignment by the flight crew. We take accusations of discrimination very seriously. Our team is gathering all available evidence, including passenger footage." Ebony gripped the phone tighter. "So, what happens now? I want to be sure this doesn't happen to anyone else, and I don't want my rights ignored just because of my age or race." Karen Brooks's tone was measured but earnest. "We agree. We're prepared to meet you upon arrival in Los Angeles with a team that will include an airline representative and, if needed, legal counsel. We plan to discuss possible compensation, and we'd like an official statement from you." Ebony felt a flash of relief but also a swirl of anxiety. "Thank you," she managed. "Please make sure my father is involved. I'm only 15. Karen Brooks reassured her. "Absolutely. We have already spoken with your father. He'll be at the arrival gate when you land. I'm so sorry, Ebony. We want to rectify this immediately." The call ended, leaving Ebony with a strange mixture of relief and apprehension. She returned to her seat, ignoring the murmurs that followed her down the aisle. She typed a message to her father. "Just spoke to Delta Corporate. They're meeting me at LAX with you. They mentioned compensation." "Good. I'll be there, baby, don't worry. This isn't just about money. We're setting a precedent." A wave of comfort washed over Ebony. She leaned against the window, letting the low hum of the engines lull her. Soon the pilot's voice announced they would begin their descent into Los Angeles. Relief welled in her chest. The ordeal was nearly over, at least for now. Descending into Los Angeles, Ebony watched the city's sprawling lights appear through the window. The plane shuddered gently as it lowered toward the runway. Her heart pounded with anticipation. In just a few minutes she'd be on the ground, and all eyes would likely be on her. The landing gear screeched against the tarmac. The aircraft slowed, taxiing toward the terminal. Ebony's phone buzzed incessantly with notifications from social media. A short snippet of Karen's outburst had gone viral, capturing the attention of thousands who were outraged on Ebony's behalf. #StandWithEbony was trending on Twitter. She scrolled quickly, seeing an outpouring of support, but also a few hateful comments from trolls. She tried not to let those get to her. When the seatbelt sign turned off, everyone stood, retrieving their bags from overhead bins. Ebony sat still, waiting. She had no desire to get caught in the rush, and she was nervous about how the flight crew might handle disembarkation. Passengers filed out, some pausing to give Ebony encouraging nods or gentle smiles. The older woman from her row whispered, "I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself," and squeezed her shoulder before leaving. Ebony smiled faintly. Finally, Ebony rose, collecting her backpack. As she stepped into the aisle, she saw Donovan near the aircraft door, his posture rigid. Tracy stood beside him, chewing her lip anxiously. They looked like they'd been given a directive to keep Ebony in sight. The corridor to the jet bridge felt strangely claustrophobic. Ebony's senses were on high alert, but all she wanted was to see her father's familiar face. Upon stepping into the gate area, Ebony spotted a small group waiting. 3 uniformed airline representatives, a woman in a smart business suit, likely Karen Brooks, and most importantly, her father, Marcus Day. His tall frame and reassuring presence caught her eye instantly. Ebony practically ran into his arms. Marcus enveloped her in a tight hug. "My brave girl," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. She clung to him, finally letting the tears flow. Behind them, Ebony heard a thunderous commotion. She turned to see Karen from the plane barreling up the jet bridge, rolling her eyes at the waiting group. Donovan and Tracy trailed behind, looking more anxious than ever. Karen's expression morphed into shock when she saw Ebony's father and the corporate team. Karen Brooks stepped forward, greeting Ebony and Marcus warmly. "Mr. Day, Ebony, I'm Karen Brooks from Delta Corporate. Let's move to a private conference room." She gestured down the hallway. Marcus nodded, but Ebony noticed how Karen from the plane, the VIP Karen, hovered, eavesdropping. She was practically fuming, clearly aware that Ebony's father was not someone to be trifled with. Inside a small windowless conference room near the gate, Ebony sat at a table with her father. Karen Brooks settled across from them while Donovan, Tracy, and another airline representative stood to the side. Karen Brooks began with a solemn tone. "Ebony, we've reviewed what happened. We have statements from passengers and some video footage. It's clear you were removed from your seat despite having a valid ticket. On behalf of Delta Airlines, we offer our sincerest apologies." Ebony nodded, her throat tight. Marcus placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Karen Brooks continued, "We are prepared to fully compensate you for the cost of this flight, upgrade you to a first-class round trip for any future travel, and provide you with additional travel credits. Furthermore, we have taken note of the flight staff's actions and will address them appropriately." She glanced at Donovan and Tracy. "This does not reflect our standards or values." Ebony inhaled, ready to speak, but Marcus took the lead. "We appreciate the acknowledgement, Miss Brooks, but compensation isn't our only concern. We want to ensure that Ebony, and any other passenger, never experiences such discrimination again. We are prepared to pursue legal action if necessary." The tension in the room was palpable. Donovan shuffled uncomfortably, while Tracy looked on the verge of tears. Karen Brooks nodded. "We understand. We will cooperate fully with any investigation. If you wish to file an official complaint, we can expedite that process." Ebony finally found her voice. "I don't want to ruin anyone's career," she said, shooting a glance at Donovan and Tracy. "But I also won't let it slide if it means other people keep doing this." Donovan stepped forward, head bowed slightly. "Miss Day, I offer my personal apology. I was under pressure to accommodate a passenger with diamond medallion status. I realize now I disregarded your rights." Ebony appreciated the admission, but it felt too little, too late. She nodded, not trusting herself to say more. Karen Brooks cleared her throat, focusing on Ebony. "We've also identified the passenger who caused the disturbance. Miss Karen Miller. She is a Diamond Medallion member, but her behavior was completely out of line. We've already begun the process of revoking her elite status." Ebony blinked, stunned. Marcus nodded, his lips set in a firm line. "That's a start," he said. "But we'll be following up. I assure you of that." As the meeting wrapped up, Ebony felt a wave of exhaustion crash over her. This had been one of the most emotionally draining days of her life. She wanted to go home, see her aunt, and try to salvage the rest of her trip. Before they left, Ebony caught Donovan's eye. She tried to see if there was genuine remorse there. Maybe there was. Or maybe he was just trying to save face. Either way, Ebony felt a sliver of closure. Outside the conference room, Ebony found herself face to face with the VIP Karen. She stood near a gate podium, tapping at her phone. She looked up, meeting Ebony's gaze with a glare. "You think you've won something? This isn't over," she hissed. Marcus bristled, ready to confront her, but Ebony placed a gentle hand on his arm. She stared back at Karen evenly. "No, it's not, but I'm done talking to you." Then she turned away, walking with her father and Karen Brooks toward the airport exit. News traveled fast. Over the next few days, Ebony's story dominated social media feeds. Passengers' videos of the incident racked up millions of views on TikTok and Twitter. Talk shows debated the role of racism and privilege in everyday life. Ebony's name became a rallying cry for those demanding fair treatment in public spaces. The VIP Karen, identified as Karen Miller, was quickly vilified online. With her name all over the internet, she found herself the target of scathing criticism. Rumor had it that Karen Miller worked as a senior executive at a major marketing firm, and once her employers caught wind of her racist tirade, they launched their own internal review. By the end of the week, she was placed on indefinite leave. Meanwhile, Donovan and Tracy faced disciplinary action from the airline. Donovan was suspended pending an investigation, and Tracy received a formal reprimand. The corporate statement from Delta vowed to institute sensitivity training to avoid similar incidents in the future. Ebony tried to remain grounded amid the viral frenzy. She spent time with her aunt in Los Angeles, visiting the Walt Disney Concert Hall, practicing piano, and bonding with her West Coast cousins. Each day she received messages of support, including offers from civil rights organizations wanting to highlight her story. One morning, Ebony found an email from Karen Brooks. It included an official apology letter from Delta, confirming a significant travel credit, and explaining that they had launched a new diversity training initiative. Ebony felt a mix of relief and responsibility. Relief that her nightmare might help spark change, and responsibility to ensure that promise wasn't hollow. She and Marcus spoke daily about whether they should file a lawsuit. Marcus kept Ebony's best interests at heart. "If we go through with it, you might have to testify publicly," he told her. "It can be stressful." Ebony understood the weight of that decision. "I want to make a difference," she said, "but I also want to move on. Let's see how the airline follows through on their promises." Ultimately, they decided to hold off on legal action, but left the door open. Marcus made sure Delta understood. If they faltered, Ebony wouldn't hesitate to press forward. As for Karen Miller, Ebony never heard from her directly again. But the internet had plenty of updates on Karen's downfall. Some people delighted in seeing her get canceled. Others argued that public shaming was too harsh. Ebony chose not to engage, focusing instead on her own healing. A week later, Ebony prepared to return home to New York. This time, Delta arranged a first-class seat for her, free of charge, and offered a personal escort through security and to the gate. Ebony's father flew to LA to accompany her on the flight back, ensuring no repeat of the fiasco. At the boarding gate in LAX, Ebony felt a few stares, recognition from some travelers who'd seen her story. But this time, it didn't faze her. Her father's presence steadied her, and there was a different flight crew, each of whom welcomed Ebony warmly. She noted a subtle tension in their eyes, as if they worried about missteps, but Ebony appreciated their caution. Once on board, Ebony settled into her plush first-class seat beside her father. The lead flight attendant, a friendly woman named Karen Smith, ironically, knelt beside Ebony with a kind smile. "We want to ensure you have a wonderful flight today, Miss Day. If there's anything you need, please let me know." Ebony nodded, grateful. "Thank you," she said simply. She gazed out the window at the busy airport tarmac, reflecting on how one flight had upended her entire worldview. She had always known racism was pervasive, but experiencing it so blatantly, and then witnessing the power of collective outrage and advocacy, had given her a new perspective. When the plane soared into the sky, Ebony felt a sense of hope. Her father rested a hand on her shoulder. "You did good, Ebony," he whispered. "Sometimes change starts with a single voice." Ebony smiled, blinking away tears. She didn't regret standing up for herself. She never would. And in that moment, as the clouds enveloped the aircraft, Ebony let herself imagine a future where she, and every other person of color, could claim their seat without question. A future where no one would have to fight for the space they were rightfully owed. It was just one flight, but it had shaken a system, however slightly. Ebony believed that if enough people raised their voices when wronged, the cumulative impact would be undeniable. Maybe the next Ebony Day wouldn't have to go through this. Maybe the next VIP Karen would think twice. Her eyes drifted shut, exhaustion and relief mingling to lull her into a doze. She dreamed of planes, open skies, and a world where her seat, her rightful place, was never in doubt. And that, dear listeners, is the shocking saga of how a single flight turned into a battleground for justice. Ebony Day stood her ground when a racist entitled VIP Karen demanded her seat, and with the help of a father who refused to let prejudice stand, she not only reclaimed her dignity, but sparked a nationwide conversation. From the seats of an airplane to the courts of public opinion, Ebony's courage reminds us that anyone can be a catalyst for change, no matter how young or seemingly powerless. If you were on the edge of your seat, no pun intended, through this entire story, please show your support by hitting the like button, sharing this video with your friends, and subscribing to our channel for more gripping tales. Let's keep conversations like these alive. And remember, true VIPs are those who stand up for what's right.